Everybody, this is Frank DiMora with the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. Please go to my website, www.demoraministry.com. You can download my book for free. If you're new, when you hear all this material that's coming out on my YouTube videos, you're going to want to visit the site or so that you can download my book for free. I never charge anybody for the book, and you can read it today. I'm going to be covering, this is again the fourth video for October 15th, and it has to do with a Matthew 24:7, where Jesus gives us one of the signs, and it would be the sign that kingdom would fight against kingdom, or kingdom would come against kingdom, which means it's civil unrest. It would be like what we're seeing, for example, in Greece, where the riots, they're rioting Greece over some issues that they don't like. We've seen these riots in Greece before. We've seen them in 17 other different states in the beginning of the year when due to the economic global crisis, and there's going to be more of them. But today there was an example of this, and I'm going to point it out since Jesus told us to keep on the watch for these things. And what had happened, the riot police clashed with protesters for the culture protesting the culture and ministry workers barricading the ancient Acropolis on Thursday, using tear gas to clear the entrance to Greece's most famous landmark. But the monument remained closed for the rest of the day as guards were launched. The guards there launched a strike in solidarity with the evicted protesters. Protest organizers said that they would gather again at the Acropolis early Friday, but it was unclear whether they would make an attempt to block the entrance. Up to 100 workers on short-term contracts had kept the ancient citadel closed since Wednesday morning, complaining that they were owed up to 24 months' worth of back pay and faced dismal dismissal when their contracts expired on October 31st. Now, this goes hand in hand with the global economic crisis that we're having, because a lot of these nations, not just the United States, but when you take a look at the European Union, France, there's Greece, there's ICE. I mean, you take a look at what's happening in Europe, and a lot of these countries on the verge of going bankrupt too. And this is all coming into play at the same time. And the crash and the rioting that we're seeing here, the global crisis, is going to usher in the Antichrist at the end of the day, because this Antichrist is, we know from Revelation chapter 13 verses 16 through 17, that nobody's going to be able to buy anything or sell anything unless they have this mark. So he's going to end up controlling everything, and we're seeing the results, or we're seeing the footsteps that are leading up to the fulfillment of Revelation chapter 13 verses 16 through 17. Now, another one of the prophecies that I want to also cover here, I have time for it, so is the prophecy again found in Matthew 24:7. And this is the prophecy that the Lord said, watch out for pestilences. Now, this is disease, all right? So we know that when you read the book of Revelation, the pale horse, we know a lot of people, millions and millions of people during the tribulation period are going to die because of sickness, diseases. And in my book, I dedicate a large amount of information to show you all the different diseases that are popping up, weird diseases that the doctors cannot control. And a lot of these diseases are now being labeled superbugs that antibiotics can't even kill off. So we can see, again, the labor pains shooting up, and they're getting worse, more intense. Now, let me read what it has to say here from Afghanistan, because this is where this latest disease has just popped up in Afghanistan. It says, an outbreak of a tropical disease caused by sandflies bites and leaves disfiguring skin sores has hit cutaneous leishmaniasis, which is the skin, is a parasite disease transmitted by a female, actually, sandfly. Okay, so this is something new. And an insect only 2 to 3 millimeters long that requires the blood of humans or animals so its eggs can develop. A treatment with the medication and not life-threatening cutaneous leishmaniasis, if that's how you pronounce it, can leave severe scars on the bodies of the victims. The disease threatens 13 million people in Afghanistan, the World Health Organization said, and many impoverished Afghan victims can't afford the medication to treat it. So what it does is eat your skin away, and there's pictures when you go to the website. When you click there, you'll actually see what it looks like. It's pretty gross. But these are things that are shooting up, more of these bugs. And I just had a warning yesterday about another superbug disease it's going to be non-affected by the antibiotics. At least that's what it appears to be. That's what we're reading. So these types of diseases are becoming more common. And it won't just be to people. You're going to start seeing crops with different diseases. We've already seen millions of crops being destroyed by this, I believe it's UG99 weed killer that's spreading in the Middle East, and they're worried about the United States and Canada, the different places. But these things are signs, all of them, and they're all happening at the same time. And what I just gave you today is just a little nutshell of what is coming. And the Lord told us that it was going to happen, and this is the generation that we know it's going to happen in, because obviously we are the generation that Jesus talked about. He warned that this is going to be the drug generation. We are the drug generation. More nations around the world are legalizing the drugs. Mexico is become a cartel state, and they're infiltrating the American border, decapitating people. And this is prophecy. We become the drug generation. Daniel 12:4 tells us this generation was going to be the generation who increased in knowledge. And since the birth of the computer, that's exactly what happened. We've gained more knowledge. And ask any scientist this. I'm not just making this up. They'll tell you that since the birth of the computer, this generation has gained more knowledge than all the previous generations since the birth of the earth. That's a fact. So we are it. And Israel being born again in this generation. As a matter of fact, the generation who saw that Israel being born again is going to be alive. This is what we know from Scripture. Jesus told us that in the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew. He said, when you see the nation of Israel being born again, you will know that this is it. Now, with that, let me get to that scripture, because it is a very important scripture, and if you're new here, I want you to read this. So if you're not new, please bear with me for a second, because this is extremely important. In verse 33 of chapter 24, it says, so likewise you. Now we're going to go up a little bit here. Verse 32. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When your branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, know that it's near, even at the door. Now listen to verse 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. And we know the fig tree that he's talking about that came with all the rest of these signs is that fig tree that is going to show us that it's the generation who's going to be here when Jesus Christ comes back. Now, when you look into the scriptures, for time's sake, there's other scriptures that said fig trees, but when you take everything in consideration about all the things that we're supposed to see at the same time, and Joel talks about the fig tree being the nation Israel, we know that this is it. And this is why we're seeing all the evidence about the Psalm 83 war and everything else that I just said. So you really need to give your life to the Lord today, and don't wait. Please, don't wait. Scroll up to yesterday's post, and the last video, you'll see me. There's a prayer there. I lead people into the Lord. Please, take that information and be blessed. Receive Jesus Christ today. I beg of you, please, consider the Lord.